Hey everybody, it's Gomladex, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we're going to be playing another premiere draft of Khans of Tarkir. Without further ado, let's get into our pack one pick one, which is a sweet little aggro dork this time around. Jeering Instigator. This is 3 mana for a face down 2/2. It's got that morph ability, but when you flip it up, you get to gain control of another creature till end of turn, untap it, and give it haste. So you get to Active Treason when you flip this thing up to steal one of your opponent's big, like, 6/7s they use to stabilize, or maybe their big 6/6 armament core or something. Really nice card for a red-white or red-blue aggro deck, which should be a nice, interesting change of pace from those green-blue grindy Morphy decks we played the first couple drafts here. So pretty nice pack one, pick one rare. I think we are going to scoop that up, see where to go from there. Pack 1 pick number 2 now. We've got some really great cards in completely different directions from the Instigator. I feel like Take Up Arms is probably fine for the red, white, and white-black Warriors decks, because there are cards that can give your whole board +2/+0 or +2/+1, where getting a wide board state with 3 creatures off the one spell can be pretty explosive. It's quite a bit of mana, but it can synergize really well with some things that buff the whole board. So that would be if we're just trying to immediately stick to Jeering Instigator for dear life. But there's also Abzan Guide, which is one of my favorite of the Morph creatures. A 4/4 lifelink is huge and really hard to race. There's a Sultai Charm, which is a great flexible removal spell. An Abomination of Gudul is another solid Morph, as is the Mystic of the Hidden Way. Really solid pack overall. So it might be worth taking a card in a completely different direction like Sultai Charm or Abzan Guide just for power level purposes. I think I'm interested to maybe try out the go wide kind of Take Up Arms deck though. We'll see. For pick 3, I will happily take Feat of Resistance. This is an insane combat trick. You can use it to counter removal spells. You can use it as a combat trick to win a fight. You could even use it to get through unblockably if your opponent only has blockers of a certain color. Like they just have a bunch of big green creatures. You're like, all right, I'll use this pre-combat to get protection from green and jam it for lethal. It's just such a flexible card for so cheap that not only counters their removal or wins combat, but it leaves behind a static buff. It leaves that +1/+1 counter on your creature forever. So Feat of Resistance, I think, is just one of the best commons in the entire set. And when we're already pushing towards some kind of red-white, red-black kind of aggro sort of deck, I'm pretty happy to take it pretty highly. So we'll grab that here. Warden of the Eye is a pretty great value play in Jeskai if we want to immediately hop into our third color, but I think Feat of Resistance for anything aggressive is spectacular and a super reasonable pickup there. For pack 1, pick number 4, there's Bring Low for some mediocre removal. Most of the removal in the set is pretty mediocre at common. There are some great uncommon removal spells. There's an Alabaster Kirin in white, which actually has a pretty good stat line for this set. There are tons of 2/1s for 2 mana and tons of 3 mana 2/2s because of all the morph cards, and this lines up favorably into all of those because it keeps chipping in for damage while stopping your opponent's morphs from getting in unless they have the mana to flip them up. So it is actually a good stat line for the format. We could take that sticking to red-white here, but we could also take Dig Through Time as a huge card draw spell. The top end if we go red-blue-white, if we go full Jeskai, but double blue is deep into that blue. I think it's strong enough though to take it over the Alabaster Kirin. A little speculatively, if we go like red-blue at the core and splash the white instead. Pick 5, pretty easy War Name Aspirant, 2 mana for a 2/1 that can't be blocked by creatures with power 1 or less, but if you get the raid trigger if you attacked with a creature, it's 2 mana 3/2 that can't be blocked by their small creatures, and it's even better. So take the Aspirant. Pick number 6. Ooh, this is exactly what I want to see the way I've started this draft. We want to see the Russia battles and the Firehoof cavalries and stuff going late. Just a playable, mediocre little 1 mana 1/1 so that we can get our raid triggers on our cards like War Name Aspirant. So I think Cavalry's reasonable, but Rush of Battle's also a great finisher for a deck that can go wide with a bunch of warriors with cards like Take Up Arms, and the Aspirant itself is also a warrior, obviously. So that's sweet too. I don't know what I take here, Cavalry or Rush of Battle, but it's definitely one of those two. Could coin flip it up. We're on 3 creatures and 1 spell right now if we're going red-white. I'll take the Rush of Battle. I feel like the little 1-mana 1/1s are probably going to go pretty late generally in a draft pod like this. Hopefully players are going for the big late game decks, a lot of grindy stuff. Defiant Strike's probably okay if you have a bunch of prowess creatures, which we don't right now, but red and white can both have prowess. That's the Jeskai mechanic, blue, red, white. Could also just take a reasonable Morph, Dork. Either of these is probably fine, but not super exciting. I'll just take the Strike. Pack 1, pick 8. There's that Alabaster Kieran with a stat line that lines up pretty reasonably in the set. Take that. Active Treason also probably an okay finisher in the set. When your opponents in the late game are slamming down 5/5s and stuff to stabilize, and you're just like, alright, I'll just kill you with it. So you can't block. But we'll take the Kieran there. Summit Prowler's fine. I don't love the idea of a 4/4 that dies the second it does anything. Gets one attacker block. So we'll take the 4-mana 4/3. Obviously mediocre, but it is serviceable filler. It'll do what it's supposed to do. Nothing here. Guess a combat trick is most likely for our aggressive deck, even if we're not likely to end up in green. Now a Trumpet Blast, where we could try out the Scaldkin off of blue. Take the Trumpet Blast. If we end up with a lot of ways to get a wide board state, I'll definitely take another Alabaster Kieran. Again, just better than it looks. I still don't think it's like insane, but it looks like nothing, but it plays fine. And the Firehoof Cavalry is another card that looks pretty mediocre, but probably plays pretty fine when we have 2-mana raid cards to trigger like the War Name Aspirants. Pretty happy with the start of the draft here. It's looking cool. Looking like a cool deck so far. For pack 2, pick number 1, we can splash into black for a Mardu Charm, which can be an efficient removal spell. It can also make our board state wide, getting 2 warriors and giving them first strike. Magical Christmas Land with this card is casting this, getting 2 1/1s with first strike, killing your opponent's attacking morph, then untapping, and just being like, okay, now I have like 3 creatures on board. So you've got a wide board state for your Trumpet Blast, you have a wide board state for your Rush of Battle. I think Mardu Charm's the pick here, even though it's much harder to cast than Burn Away, and Burn Away is also great removal. I think the flexibility on this card is actually pretty sweet. If you're in the right position where your opponent makes an attack that doesn't work super well against 2 1/1 first strikers, you can go pretty crazy with this spell. Let's grab the Mardu Charm, have a little red or a little black splash in this deck. Ooh, Seeker of the Way, let's go. Prowess on a 2-mana 2/2 that also gives itself lifelink when you cast your non-creature spell. That is very hard to race in an aggressive mirror match. And this is a warrior, which is an important creature type for some cards like Rush of Battle, so this is looking really good here. This pack is also excellent in general. There's also Einok Bondkin, which after you outlast it one time to make it a 3/2 first strike is just fighting well above its weight class. It's doing super well there. The Cavalry's great for triggering raid, and the Abzan Ascendancy, pretty hard for us to cast here, but a pretty nuts card in general. It's just a really solid pack for everybody. Let's grab that Seeker of the Way, though. A lot that I like about that card. Pack 2, pick number 3. I don't think I'm going to want to play a second copy of Trumpet Blast or a second copy of Summit Prowler, and I'm not going to main deck in a race, so I will speculate on ending up deeper into black for this Mardu Skull Hunter, which is a possibility, right? Because one of our red cards, the Summit Prowler, is pretty mediocre. One of them, the Jeering Instigator, is a Morph, which means we can cast it for generic mana at 3 mana on the curve, which means we have like one good red card that we need to play early, and that's it. So if we end up deeper into black, we could go black-white splash the red instead of red-white splash the black. And Mardu Skull Hunter would be really good in that kind of deck. So we'll take the Skull Hunter here. See what 2 colors we really end up at the core of our deck. But being a pretty aggressive deck, we do want one of these 3 colors to be more of a splash than anything. Take a Ponyback Brigade here. Again, ways to make our board state super, super wide are pretty great with Rush of Battle and Trumpet Blast. And obviously the Ponyback Brigade is going to have 4 creatures hitting our board off of the 1 spell, which is beautiful. Pack 2, pick number 5. Another Alabaster Kieran. Don't think we're dirtling around with that. Already got 2 and a Summit Prowler. I mean, maybe. Because I'm not doing Bloodfire Mentor, War Behemoth, Sage Eye Harrier, or a Banner in this kind of deck. Dragon Grip, if you can flash it in, it's pretty nasty, but Sorcery Speed is just not a very good card. And I don't think we're going to consistently have 4-power creatures on the board in a little streamlined aggro deck like this, so I guess I am just taking another Alabaster Gear in there. Pick number 6. Oh, Lich Lord is sick in Sultai, but we're very far from that. Shatter is not main deckable. Barrage is not, unless you have a ton of 4-power greater creatures, which we don't. It's the top-end Delve card, or the discard spell, which is really good at fueling Delve. I guess I just take the discard spell, but is unlikely to make the cut. Leaping Master is looking great if we stick to red-white. 2 mana 2/1 on curve, beaten down, and then jumping into the sky once they establish blockers. Active Treason also looking okay, but I do basically already have an Active Treason with Jeering Instigator. I've got an Active Treason on a body, which is even better. And I don't think that's the kind of card you want like 4+ copies of, like a ton of them. And I feel like I can probably pick one up later if I want an Active Treason and the rare Active Treason. Valley Dasher's probably fine over a 4th Alabaster Gear in here. So we'll take that. Take a Leaping Master again here. It's a great curve. Lots of 2-drop creatures to make sure we are curving out much faster than the average deck in this format is going to. Probably still red, white, splash the black at this point. Canyon Lurkers is a fine dirtily finisher. Put that at the 3-mana slot, as I will with the Pony Back and the Instigator. Grab a Summit Prowler. I'm going to cut these. I don't think these are getting played. So 20 out of 23 non-land cards. Looking great. We've got a whole pack to wrap this deck up. This could be a sweet little aggro deck. This is kind of crazy. This is my best curve I've drafted by far in this format so far, because there's just so much exciting, powerful morphs and late game stuff. I've just never had this many 2-drops because so many of them look pretty mediocre, but we've got some good looking ones in terms of the power level of this format in this deck right now. Could be nice. All right, pack 3, what do you have for us? Ooh, Ankle Shanker? I don't know if that's actually any good. 5 mana 2/2 is a hard sell, right? Like, you have to have insane text to be a good 5 mana 2/2. But this does basically make your board unblockable, right? Because every single thing they block with is just going to die. You have First Strike and Death Touch. You just kill their creatures without losing yours unless they have a bunch of First Strike themselves. I feel like Horde Ambusher might just be a better card. Like a 3 mana 2/2 that stops a block when you flip it up. But I think I have to just try the Ankle Shanker. We gotta try this at least one time. Yeah, it kind of does just shut off blocks from turn 5 onward. But it's also really easy to kill. You spend 5 mana on that, they spend 3 on their removal or whatever, and it's gone. Okay, Einok Bondkind is fine. This is a dog? I guess it is he's a fuzzy dude over there. We've got a Leaping Master. Yeah, I think I just take the Murderous Cut off the splash. I don't think... We've got enough 2-drops. We don't need another. Just find one like a Leaping Master or Bondkin. I mean, Bondkin is really good, but I think we have enough of those and not enough like interaction like Murderous Cut. Hopefully we can find 1 or 2 duels. We're seeing a decent chunk of duels, but a lot of them are like green-black, green-blue, blue-red, stuff like that. Ooh, Mardu Horde Chief is like the best 3-drop in the set. At least at common. 3 mana for a 2/3 that also spits out a 1/1 is just nuts, because like a 2/3 is already a good stat line against all of the 2/2s and 2/1s, like I always say. But a 2/3 and a 1/1, that's 3 power and 4 toughness for only 3 mana in a set where there's a lot of overcosted creatures, so I enjoy a Mardu Horde Chief quite a bit. None of the right colors of duels, sadly. Is Horde Chief better than High Spire Mantis? I don't know if it is in a nutshell, or just in a vacuum, but in this deck, probably, because we have a good count of 1 and 2 mana creatures, at least for this format, and we also have 3 4-mana flyers already, so like a 4th 4-mana flyer is not that exciting. Like High Spire Mantis, we take this and we probably cut one of the Kirans for it, but Horde Chief is like Premium 3-mana stuff. I'm going to take the Horde Chief instead of the High Spire Mantis. I think with Trumpet Blast and a Rush of Battle, and even the Ankle Shanker to a certain extent, buffing all of our like 1/1s, Take Up Arms does look like a solid 5-drop finisher, so I'm going to draft one of those. If this was any kind of black duel, if it was red-black or white-black, I would take it. But we just keep seeing the wrong colors of duels, except for like really early in these picks. So our Black Splash might end up being a bit awkward here. It is looking that way, sadly. Pick 6 is a bunch of garbage. There's a Leaping Master. Get another 2-drop in the deck. That looks fine. I don't think I want 3 buff the whole board spells, like 2 Trumpet Blasts and a Rush of Battle. Yeah, we'll just take the Leaping Master. Pick 7, no duels. Let's get a 1-mana Warrior in here, I think. Yeah, Warrior's a good card type. Getting another 1 or 2 mana creature to attack in and help our raid cards is nice. This is a really strong pack. There's a Mistfire Weaver still in here. I love this card. I think I've had at least 1 copy of this in all 3 of my other drafts of the format so far, and I just constantly have been enjoying how well that card plays. However you want to play it, whether you just cast it face up or flip it. Here, I think I take a Rush of Battle and cut the Trumpet Blast. I think this is just better than Trumpet Blast when you have a decent Warrior count. Making it like impossible for your opponent to race with that lifelink. And we've got a good Warrior count, especially because the Horde Chiefs are spitting out 2 Warriors off 1 card. The Take Up Arms are spitting out 3 off of 1 card. Yeah, Rush of Battle looks better than Trumpet Blast in here. We'll do 2 of those. No Trumpet Blast. Here's another Summit Prowler that's probably just cut. I guess I could play the Banner for a black source. It's white and black. I am not going to get that desperate for fixing, though. We're just going to play like 3 Swamps and have an awkward mana base. It is what it is. I already cut 1 Trumpet Blast. I'm not going to take another, although I'm probably cutting 1 Leaping Master at this point. We've got a lot of them. Pick 11. We didn't end up with a lot of prowess for Defiant Strikes. I don't think they're great, but we don't have a lot of... We probably don't have any 4 power. I guess 2 Canyon Lurkers to trigger Barrage, but just 1 damage to everybody. I don't think main deck playable in the format. Oh, we've got a lot of Defiant Strikes. Again, I don't think I'm running a million of those, though. Okay. How do we build this thing with 0 mana fixing? Do we just play 3 Swamps and pray? Maybe. Maybe. We have, like, no removal without the black source. And the black sources give us Murderous Cut and Mardu Charm. Yeah, there's no removal in the sideboard. And as for the main deck, there's no removal in red or white. But if we just go fast enough, we probably don't need to kill anything. Like, just get a wide board state with cards like Horde Chief and then buff it up and just go around their big creatures rather than killing their big creatures. It's a reasonable plan. And you do want consistent mana bases the more aggressive your deck is, and this is really aggressive for this set. So I could absolutely see a justification for going pure red-white here. Over dirtling around with any splashes, where missing lands can be rough. If we were to cut the black splash, our mana base is real consistent. We're at 19 creatures, so we just cut 2 dirtily morphs, probably the Sage Eye and the Lurkers here. And get real low to the ground. Use that as a 5-drop, I suppose. This looks really nice, even if it doesn't have any removal in it. Hateblade's weird. We're just playing a 1-mana 1 with no text at this point, but for Horde Chiefs and an Aspirant, that's probably okay. But no, maybe cut a Hateblade for another Canyon Lurkers or something. I don't think I play a Summit Prowler with 3 4-drops. I suppose I probably do play a Canyon Lurkers over a Hateblade if we're going just red-white. We might even be a 16-land deck here. This format's interesting, because I think your average deck is probably like 18 lands, and then your aggros are average 17 lands. This might actually be a 16 land aggro deck. Probably still not quite, especially if we're splashing black. If we do end up going for that black splash, playing 16 lands instead of 17 isn't just that we'll draw less lands on average, but we'll hit the right colors a little less often than average, right? Because instead of being able to go like 6-6-3 as our mana split, we'll have to go like 6-5-3, and then one of our main colors between red or white will be slightly less likely to be drawn just because we're running less lands total. So less sources of that color. So if we're cutting to make room for black spells, we need to cut like 3 cards here. There's probably the double lurkers for sure, just like the low toughness, high mana value stuff. Which then I guess adds Bloodfire Expert to the mix. Just low toughness for that mana cost, even if it does have prowess. We like cut these 3 and then throw in the 3 black spells. Although I think there's 4, right? There's Ponyback, Ankle Shaker, Mardu Charm, and Murderous Cut. So I guess we can cut like the Defiant Strikes, pretty filler. Cut these 4 for those 4. With 0 fixing in the deck and trying to be aggressive, I don't know if this is genuinely the right thing to do, but I think I am going to do it in the end. It's a much cooler looking version of the deck, even if it's definitely less consistent. If we lose some games to mana issues, that's definitely self-imposed, and I will accept that. But this way, we have kind of a cooler deck to play around with, and it might make the gameplay a little more interesting, get to play with some splashier, bigger stuff. It's going to be a really cool deck, but the mana base is a little awkward, and we will suffer for that a bit, but I am willing to accept that, I think, to run this version of the deck. So 15-10-4 with white, red, and black. But all of our white spells are single white. Yeah, we don't need double white or double red or anything like that, which is nice. It is hard to justify dropping down to 6 mountains. It's pretty low. And in order to put an 8th plains in here, we kind of have to do that. Because I don't think we can cut down to just 2 swamps with 4 potential black spells that we're trying to splash in. I guess really 3 of them that need the black source. Yeah, the mana base is definitely awkward here. Like, our numbers kind of justify dropping a plains for a mountain, but all of our high mana value stuff is white, right? All of our red is chunked up at 2 and 3 mana, which means that throughout the early game, red and white are pretty equally important, so I think it's fine to just go an even split on them. And by the time we draw into these 4 and 5 mana white spells, then we probably have the white source anyway. So keep the red and white equal for that early game where we really need both colors. Yeah, we're going to get got for playing these swamps, but it is what it is. I have accepted this life, and we're going to call it a deck here. Alright, here we have a look at the final deck list for today. This is going to be a Mardu aggro deck, and this archetype is all about some aggressive little warriors having a great mana curve that actually starts on 2, where a lot of other decks in the format might be just starting on 3 with some morphs, so you can jam in for a bunch of damage early, and a lot of stuff to make a wide board state. Cards like Mardu Horde Chief spit out some 1/1 warriors, the Ponyback Brigade gives you a really wide board, and Take Up Arms can spit out a bunch of 1/1s as well for your big finishers like Rush of Battle to buff your entire board and get a ton of damage in. So this is pretty quintessential looking Mardu deck here. The one major flaw that we do have is we have 0 mana fixing. We did not manage to pick up any lands during the draft. Obviously a little self-imposed during some of those early packs. I think we had some opportunities that would have been good to pick up lands, but later on, once we did fully solidify into Mardu and decide that we were splashing in the black, it was too late to find the lands that we needed. So the mana is going to be rough, and that is probably the biggest way we're going to be losing some of these games. But other than that, great curve of creatures, great card quality in general, and it looks like a pretty fun deck. So without further ado, let's head into the gameplay and see how it does. Here we are for game 1. No black source is very awkward, and we do definitely want to draw lands. I think it's still a keep, though. Seeker of the Way turn 2 is really good, and we have both of our main colors on the draw, So any lands drawn are great, and we will be drawing from turn 1 onward. So 3 draw steps to hit 1 land to make sure we have at least 3 mana here. Although we do need 2 if we don't hit specifically a black source. It's a little sketch. It's a little sketchy, I'm not gonna lie. There is a definite risk in this keep, but I'm gonna go for it and hope for the best. Leaping Master's not a terrible start, because now we do get to drop that out no matter what we draw into. Playing against Jeskai here, red, white, and blue, and there's the perfect mana. We find the swamp. Let's go. Drop the Seeker of the Way, because turn 3 we probably want to cast this Mardu Charm on some form. So having a prowess threat could be really nice if they try to block here. Send that in. If they... Never mind. I don't even have to think here. I was going to say, if they don't try to block, then I need to decide if it's better to just kill the flyer or get a couple 1/1s. I feel like it's probably better to get a couple 1/1s, get that wide board state, because we have a couple cards in here that are so good at buffing the entire board. But yeah, if they block with the Wind Scout, we have a real good prowess trigger there. Now they've got a 2/5 blocker. That is a brick wall over there. So, I mean, I can just Murderous Cut it and get in for 5. Clear the path here. That seems fine. Then next turn I take up arms and prowess trigger again. Alternatively, we start getting it in the sky. I think I just want to clear the path and keep hitting for damage right now. A little impatient, but that's what aggro is all about, baby. Opponent is down to 17. There's a face down card, 2 mana to flip it up. Should not be enough to really ruin my day here. If they try to block the Seeker of the Way again, I was going to say, then they really haven't learned their lesson. I'm still going to go for the take up arms here to get extra damage in. And any of our +2/+1 to the whole board spells are really lethal now. This board state is insane. Our Ankle Shanker is also hilarious. Whole board gets first strike death touch now with this many creatures. So, 3 draws that are really, really lethal. Two copies of the Rush of Battle, 1 copy of Ankle Shanker. Ooh! Arc Lightning's really good against this board. Yeah, it's really good against our deck in general. We've got a lot of 1/1s and 2/2s and stuff. Okay. So, I can sack a 1/1 to deal 3. Is that worth it? Generally in an aggressive deck, it probably is, but in a deck that has 2 copies of Rush of Battle and 1 copy of Ankle Shanker, I'm not so sure. With 3 ways to find much better use of just having a wider board. But yeah, sack a 1/1 token, deal 3 damage, turning a token into a lightning bolt at my opponent's face. Generally pretty reasonable. I think in this deck, though, with 3 cards that really, really get more value the wider our board is, we try to keep that board state wide, unless we're like actually trading into a creature on attacks. Oh my god. Okay, well now I don't care. Now our board state's colossal no matter what. 3 to use this? Yeah, I can't use that and take up arms in the same turn. Even if I could, I don't really mind trading for the Morph instead of the Flyer. And the really nice rule of thumb with Morphs, there are plenty of Morphs that can flip for just various mana costs, anywhere from 1 mana to like 6 mana. But the one thing to keep in mind is that until your opponent has 5 mana, there aren't really any Morphs that are going to flip up and beat a 2/2. There aren't Morphs that will eat your Morph. So most of the really big Morphs that are just going to like win combat most of the time is 5 mana and up. So if your opponent has less than 5 mana, you are a lot safer to attack into Morphs than otherwise. If your opponent has all this up, and you'll get particularly hurt by losing a creature in the combat, you probably don't want to attack into that Morph. Well, this was an absolute horde of warriors here. Oh my god, no way! Oh. just get mega bombed out of the game? Such hilarious timing, too. I mean, this is the only morph in the entire set that just, like, wipes your board if you attack into it. So we were still definitely attacking all so that we can threaten lethal with how wide our board was. That was the correct play, because this was the only card that saved them there. That was a morph. There's no Settle the Wreckage. This is the Settle the Wreckage. So I stand by that line, but wow. That was hilarious timing. And also incredibly bad for us. This game just went from a guaranteed win into us definitely being behind now. Even, I think, with the Ankle Shanker draw, because they've got 3 more cards in hand here. They probably have interaction to kill the Ankle Shanker. Maybe they have a morph that can do it, but First Strike, Death Touch, they need some real specific stuff to beat that with a morph. So I'm going to attack into the morph here. Basically, it has to be the First Striking 4/3, I think, to win this combat. Which it could be. They are blue, white, red. And that wouldn't even be winning. That would just be trading. So it's not miserable. We still trade into First Strike morphs that they could flip up. Crippling Chill. So because they Crippling Chill, they only have 2 mana up for the morphs. They can't flip a big enough flyer to kill the Kieran. Alright, so we do get 2 damage in at least. Just by casting the Ankle Shanker in the first place. Forcing them to chill that instead of the flyer. They're down to 4. River Wheel Aerialists, the tongue twister of the set. River Wheel Aerialists, River Wheel Aerialists, River Wheel Aerialists. But also, more importantly, a big, beefy, flying blocker that we can't attack into here until Ankle Shanker untaps. And we don't know if it even will. Might just get killed before we can get another attack declared with it. Well, another attack. It hasn't technically attacked a single time yet. All right. Down to 14. Still a bit of breathing room to find some way to get lethal here. Mardu Horde Chief, phenomenal card. Wide board state for our opponent now for blockers on the ground. Valley Dasher is a good draw, so we can attack with 4 creatures this turn. I kind of hate that it is forced to attack here, though, because if I play this and then they just shoot the Ankle Shanker with an instant speed removal spell, it's going to be pretty gross. Or if they Crippling Chill the Shanker, but we still definitely have to just play it here. Threaten as much damage as possible. Right, if they don't have instants, they do not have particularly favorable blocks. They can't even afford to, like, triple block Ankle Shanker to kill it, or they'll just take 4 and die. So if they don't have instants, we're in a great spot. Actually. Take 2, go to 2 here, triple chump. Is what it looks like on board. +3/+0 to something doesn't do anything. So just having the 4/3 for crackbacks, maybe try to hit for lethal here. They hit for 9. If they've got an Arrow Storm to deal 5 to us, that will be lethal. They do have 2 red sources because the mountain and the blue-red source. And Arrow Storm is 5 damage to any target. So if they can clear out our Alabaster Kieran and then Arrow Storm us, we are dead. Fingers crossed. But they can't. Do I have to chump block to play around an Arrow Storm? If I play around Arrow Storm, they're more likely to survive if they don't have it. But if I don't play around Arrow Storm, then I lose if they have it. It's a hard choice. Right, because if they don't have Arrow Storm and then they just play like 2 blockers here, that we just lose a game that we would have won if we didn't block. We're really damned if we do and damned if we don't. We can either lose to Arrow Storm or lose to them having just other spells. I do not think they would possibly make this attack if they didn't have the Arrow Storm in hand. Or something like it to just deal 5 to me, right? If they didn't have Arrow Storm, it would be too risky to do this instead of just jamming out, holding up at least one of these and jamming out more blockers. I'm going to play around Arrow Storm, and then they're not going to have Arrow Storm, and we're not going to kill them because they're just playing blockers. Although, I mean, if they have Arrow Storm, we still probably just don't kill them now, right? Because they could just Arrow Storm one of the creatures to make sure they're still alive. Arrow Storm a creature and play a blocker. I don't like this position very much, but here we are. Please not another, like, Horde Chief. That'd be really gross. 2 blockers off 1 card. They got some Delve here. They keep looking at their graveyard a little bit. So they might have, like, a Treasure Cruise to draw 3. Well, I'd probably have main phase 1'd that if they had it. Well, we have no choice but to try to kill them. Let's go. Yeah, holding up blockers here is certainly not the play. I already have to send 1 in. Yeah, we just go for it. Cross them fingers. Please get there, my squad. Oh, wow. So we were very, very dead if we didn't block. But this is 2 trades, because first strike. So we clear their board here. If they don't have another spell, this is clearing their board. And then we just keep the Valley Dasher, I guess, is the only thing they're going to let us keep. I don't know if there's any reason to give this flying, right? Because these will both have flying anyway. Yeah. Okay. So the board is wiped except for 1 Valley Dasher on our board that will lethal them if it gets through next turn. So we're still going. We're still in here. Well, we did objectively, in hindsight, block very correctly last turn. There's the Treasure Cruise for 1 mana. Draw 3 to find an out for the Valley Dasher. Oh my god, did they not find one? They're at 2 life. So basically any creature I draw is going to be lethal for the rest of this game no matter what. So do I Rush of Battle? Is there anything that this plays around? Realistically, like instant speed life gain, I guess? Instant speed 2 damage to an attacking creature? I don't think either of those are things that'll really happen. I guess this plays around them having their own copies of Take-Up Arms, which might be a thing. I guess. Guess I'd do that here. Because again, there's no cards we could draw in our deck that are less than 2 damage anyway. No shots! Oh my god! Why is this happening to me? Keep getting got by the exact right cards. Bounce all tapped creatures and then destroy a 4-power creature. Oh no. Oh. That one was a common, so at least that one I might have been able to play around. And it just shouldn't have Russia battled. God dang it. Well, I mean, they had an instant. The game was holding for them even before we had it 4 power, so they actually probably just had removal that would kill it either way, and just because we made it 4 power, they used the 4 power removal to save the other removal spell for something else. It's probably realistically what happened here. At 8, I don't think I can attack into the Morph, because it probably eats the Aspirant. They've got more than enough mana to do so. Oh boy. The way their deck seems oriented, I guess we can't see their graveyard, but their exiled spells, the way their deck seems, these morphs are probably really big creatures, because that's the only thing they've morphed previously. Shoots real bad. This ain't it. This ain't it. Pray it's not a giant flyer, at least. Maybe just another first striker or something. We trade into the flyer if we attack. It's not even threatening lethal anyway. Just trading into the flyer here. The best I'm getting by giving this flying and attacking in is trading into a Wind Scout. The worst I'm getting is they flip like a 1/5 flyer and eat it, which is miserably bad. Like, our best case scenario isn't even good. And now we're just dead, I imagine. Eat both our creatures, but if we don't block these, they just hit us for 8 by flipping them. Still one top deck to win this game if they don't lethal me this turn. That'd be the Jeering Instigator to steal one of their creatures and kill them with it. Oh yeah, super mega dead. If we attacked into that at all, or didn't block either of these, we would have been lethaled. And that's it. One blocker's not enough. Miserable game there. That went about as poorly as it possibly could. I mean, the real game changer there, the real play of the game was that 1,000 wins. God, their deck was insane. 1,000 wins and Flying Crane technique. And the perfectly timed smite there. Might have just won the game if we didn't go for the rush of battle. Might have won the game. But again, they had something instant speed that was holding for them, unless they're playing in full control mode. And like, they were holding before they had any legal targets for the smite. Before there were any power 4 greater creatures on board, they were already holding. Like, they had priority to cast something. So they could have just been holding another removal spell all game, just in case, as a backup plan. In which case it wouldn't have mattered if we rush a battle or not. But that was like the one... I think every other line this game was just like pretty solid, probably correct throughout the game. But that was the one line where it was like, doing this plays around some things, like take up arms or whatever, and we're not going to need this any later with our opponent at 2. But if I remember that Smite the Monstrous existed in this format, then doing it also plays poorly against specifically Smite the Monstrous. So it like plays around a card or two, but then it plays poorly against a common card, so in the end, it's pretty coin flippy whether or not you want to cast it there. It probably just leans on just don't cast it. If it's like a 50-50 on whether or not it'll do anything at all to cast it, or it'll hurt you to cast it, you might as well just keep it for later. So that was a real bummer, but I don't think we played particularly poorly. I think we just really got by the perfect cards at the perfect times, mainly the 1,000 wins, but that smite was gross too. Here we are for game 2 on the play. Start off with some Leaping Masters and try to go to town here. Find that Ankle Shanker. Uh-oh. A couple black spells here without the black source yet could definitely be awkward. Playing against a black-green deck. Teamer Charger from our opponent. I think we take that trade. 2-1 for a 3-1. An opponent doesn't want the trade, so we just get damage in and get to hold our mana up for casting another Leaping Master. Here comes that Teamer Charger, charging in for 1 point of damage, and here comes the Mountain. Cash it in for 4 damage. This Russia battle, I don't think I want to do that, though. So we're casting nothing. Hoping for any red or white spell or a swamp as our draw next turn. Most of our deck's pretty good draws. There's only one more black spell in the deck, the Murderous Cut. If we draw the Ponyback Brigade, we can still morph it as a 2/2. It would not be a terrible draw. But the Murderous Cut, I think, is the worst draw on the deck. Well, Murderous Cut, Mountain, and Plains, those are the 3 really bad draws, but everything else I think is solid here. Rakshasa's Secret. Well... It's definitely one of the black cards. I suppose Ankle Shaker, because Mardu Charm's so flexible. And getting 2 creatures right before a Russia battle could be insane. It's disappointing for sure, dropping the Shanker. But it is what it is. We don't have the black source. We don't know when we will. We have to discard one of these black cards. And I think the Mardu Charm is just better in a variety of positions, whereas Ankle Shanker is only going to help if we're already like still in a good aggressive spot. Mountain is a horrific draw. Pass from there. Save it in my hand. I think we have Tormenting Voice in here. No, we don't. That was my last deck. Getting things mixed up. Yeah, we don't have any discard. I guess I should have just ran it out. And then if I draw a black source next turn, I could play Mardu Charm and jump Elite Being Master into the sky for 6 total. Yeah, we should have played the Mountain, just in case Mountain into Swamp next turn, then we have 6 mana to toy around with. Sultai, Soothsayer. Now we have to jump some Masters to get any damage in. So that is the other thing, yeah, 2 lands in a row and now we double jump the Masters. Yeah, I was really loose holding this land. I think in general, in most positions, you should just be slamming the lands out. There's so few reasons to be holding them. Like, bluffing them is just so not worth it, generally. So that's on me. It's going to be really bad if we draw a land next turn. If we draw any non-land, then we don't get punished at all, and we pretend we played it last turn. So fingers crossed on that one. That'd feel nice. Well, get absolutely hosed for not playing our land last turn. And it's also a pretty bad draw. Even if we had played a land last turn, we wouldn't have been that excited about hitting that, but it's like, at least we hit for 4, I guess. So if we played this game out correctly, I think the only thing we've done wrong really is just not playing that land. If we had been playing correctly, they would be at 7 right now, which would be dead to a rush of battle if they don't play any blockers. But they do have a gigantic 6/7 blocker, so it doesn't matter here. Mardu Charm into rush of battle is the game plan here. Still, I think having hit for 2 more damage last turn definitely would have been very, very good. It is a huge downside to not have done that. Yeah, our best bet here is to try to cheese lethal. Get 2 more 1/1s than they think that we have, and then crack back with Rush of Battle. That's 6 here, so I can chump block the Loxodon, go to 1 if they send all. There's a Sultai Flayer. Please not another spell. There's another spell, there's like no chance. Alright. We just super lose, right? Because now I have to just like make 2 1/1s, have one trump the Loxodon, and then I have a 2/1 and a 1/1 left to rush a battle with, which is just meaningless. Yeah. I do want to do the math, see how much they would have been at if we had played the land on curve. Maybe this was lost because of that land drop that we skipped. So we'll do the math on that one. Know exactly how bad we're supposed to feel about that, but it was definitely not the right play, regardless. So there's that. And first strike away that, and then we have to jump here still, though, which is sad. This only gains life on 4 toughness, so it's not going to gain life for killing the charger, so yeah, that's the block. And so they would be at 5 life right now if I did play my lands on curve and got an extra 2 flying points of damage in. So if they were at 5 life... Oh. Well, they would have died if they were at 5 life, but they also die now because we act like a champion. Yeah. That is exact seize. So, oh wow. That is so lucky that this game lined up perfectly to just not punish us at all. This game went the exact same way, whether or not I had played that land on curve or not. Because if I didn't draw into that Valley Dasher, even if I had them down to 5 life, what I could have done for my 7 mana was buff the whole board and give this flying. So like this hits them for 4 and puts them to 1, and then this gets blocked by the 3/4. So then I'm at 10 life and they're at 1, but then they kill me because they have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 power on the crackback. So literally, regardless of how I played that out, no matter how I played it out, they would have been at 2 less life the whole game, but I still wouldn't have found the lethal without the Valley Dasher to give me a wide enough board state against the Flayer. So that is so lucky to not get punished for that kind of boneheaded play of having 3 mana activated abilities on board and still not playing the land towards getting to the 6 mana for them. So feels really lucky to be able to get a learning moment like that in a game that we still win in the end. Where it just wouldn't have changed the outcome of this game at all if we had played correctly. So that's going to be really good to keep in mind in the future, and we got to learn a lesson like that in a game that still ended up being a victory. So pretty happy with that. Make sure to play those extra lands when you got those activated abilities on board. We are 1-1 now, heading into game number 3. Here we are now for game 3. This is nice. Cavalry into Seeker no matter what. Any land makes us go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop with a Morph on turn 3, and hitting the red source means we have all 3 colors of mana, and we are much more statistically likely to draw a red source than like another black source here. So starting with the black source in hand is really nice to get that land that's like really unlikely to draw just in the opener. So you just know you have that set up for the future. It's pretty nice to get your 1 of 3 swamps in the opener and have your splash color out of the way guaranteed. What a draw though, turn 1. What a draw. There's a Valley Dasher hitting the board. Slamming in for 2. Alright, there we go. That'll pay us off. For that last turn draw, that was a little sketchy. Hope down to 19 and drop a Seeker of the way. Don't have anything to prowess it up with right now, but a 2-2 is still better than a 2-1. When it's going to be quite some time before I want to dump any mana into this ability, when I've got plenty more creatures to keep jamming out on the board for now. Ew, debilitating injury. At least that means they don't injury the Morph and stop us from flipping into some goblins, unless they have another injury here. So let's set up for that super wide board from the Ponyback Brigade. This is kind of nice. It's like a 3-mana 2-2 that once you hit turn 5, you just cast to take up arms, right? I mean, it makes goblins instead of warriors, but still. 5 mana, 3 1/1s, instant speed. Gives you that same spell. Harder to cast, though, mana-wise, for sure. So Mardu mirror match full on here. Turn 4 from our opponents. We're going to have the exact same lands on board as well. I mean, there's our Zendikar lands instead of Nicol Bolas lands from Hour of Devastation, so obviously we have better taste in our mana base, but it's exactly Plains, Mountain, Swamp, Swamp. Ruthless Ripper. Not very good against 1/1 tokens, so I'm really happy to have Take Up Arms and the Ponyback Brigade. Dropping a 2/3 seems really good against the 2/2 that has to keep attacking here. Yeah, let's just drop the 2/3 and pass. We're not attacking into the Death Toucher with our Ponyback Brigade. Or really attacking into their Morph with our Ponyback Brigade right now. We're definitely going to cash in the Morph on Ponyback Brigade before we cast Take Up Arms, because if this Morph dies, then we have to discard the 3/1/1 Goblin spell, but Take Up Arms gets to sit in our hand all game. So certainly cashing in the Brigade before we try to cash in the Take Up Arms. Show me the trick. They're forced into this attack, so again, very possible they don't have any trick here and we just eat the 2/2. If they do have a trick, it's not atrocious for us. I think our follow-up plays are really nice on this board. And they don't have the trick, just a Krumar Bondkin as the Morph card for a 5/3 there. And now I get to cash in some damage in the sky and still have plenty of blockers here. Ripper for the Morph it is, so they're just going to trade into a 2/2 with no text after it's flipped up, which is awesome. Board state is looking very favored now, although life totals were definitely behind. And I think your board state and general, like, cards in hand, a little more important generally than life totals for sure. Life is a resource. That is one of the tooltips they tell you frequently on Magic Arena. Chief of the Scale. Buff up the toughness on that Bondkin is actually pretty real. So instead of just going like Kieran and a 1/1, I have to go Kieran 1/1/1/1. Lose 3 dorks to kill it. And I also can't just go 3 1/1s into it. Yeah, that's a significant enough buff that while I might have been okay with a trade otherwise, now I'm just jumping, I think. Send these in, because I can buff the Cavalry to trade into the Chief and still cast a Leaping Master in the same turn. If they don't block the Cavalry, I think... well... nothing that buffs the whole board right now. Guess... I'll just buff the Cavalry and play a Leaping Master then. Get more flying damage. Right now, the only thing we're using a bunch of 1/1s for is just jumping Krumar Bondkin every turn, and I've still got 2 more to do that, so I don't need to Take Up Arms right now. We can wait till we top deck a 7th land, then I can play Leaping Master and Take Up Arms in the same turn. Or we wait till we draw like a Rush of Battle that's like, oh snap, now I want a really wide board. Here comes that Bondkin. I'm going to keep chumping it. Red has access to cards like Arrow Storm that are just 5 damage to my face, so I'm not going to let myself get below 6 life here, ideally. I'll keep chumping to stay at a reasonable amount of breathing room here. We do hit the 7th land, which again isn't the most ideal or exciting draw ever, but it lets us Take Up Arms and Leaping Master. If I do that, instead of just jumping this Leaping Master in the sky, I'm not getting lethal in the sky next turn. And it's really tempting to try to get lethal in the sky in one more swing, so I think I'm going to go for the lethal. The 2-turn lethal here. Hit for 4 this turn and then 6 next turn. And that puts them to 0. Little less safe on the crackback. Only 2 creatures I really want to chump with, but the Kieran's big enough to block one of their 2 power creatures and still stick around. So that really helps us on blocks. They've got their own like +2/+1 to everybody. They're just going to straight win the game, but if we had our own, we would have straight won the game, so that's just kind of a let spin thing here. If that happens to us, whoever draws the +2/+1 to everybody does kind of win here. So this is bad against combat trick. This is bad against removal. This is bad against direct damage. But they need a lot of direct damage to kill us here, right? Like, Arrow Storm doesn't do it. If they hit for 2, we go to 7. They need, like, Arrow Storm and something else. Hitting us for 7 is hard. They could have the Crater's Claws. If they have Crater's Claws, they get us either way. That's a red and X for X to any target, and if you have a 4-power creature, it does 2 extra damage. So they'd spend red and 5, and they'd deal 7 to our face, and we'd die if we don't block. But if they have that spell, and I do block, then they just kill one of our flyers, and we don't lethal them next turn anyway. But because we have take-up arms, I think we can win this game if we don't just straight die to a Crater's Claws. Although, no, I'd have to dump all my mana into the double Leaping Master, so we're going to tap out trying to swing back for lethal next turn. So yeah, if it is Crater's Claws, I think we lose either way. Play around a combat trick here, I guess. Maybe. With our thinking there, we should have just... Oh, Lord. That's a good draw, but not good enough. This thing is so big. Oh, boy, what do we do here? Okay, so the best play last turn would have been just straight don't block. If that was the play. I guess it's take up arms and try to rush a battle for lethal in the next attack. This turn we don't get anything through, but at least they don't have cards engraved to kill anything with this Fiend. They still have that one spell in hand. Like, if they've got that Arrow Storm, it's GG. At this point, I don't think we can play around it. One sacks a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. So I have to sack my Kieran. Oh no, I can sack a Leaping Master. Because they have the same power. Okay, cool. But I also take 2, which is not good. Now they crack all trying to find lethal, and maybe take up arms can let us block enough and then swing back. I'd be surprised if they choose to tap Necropolis Fiend to give our Leaping Master -1/-1 instead of just attacking with it here, but it's possible. Wow, really safe play from our opponent, and that's horrific for us. Now we just cast a Russia battle. They respond by killing the Leaping Master, and we don't have anywhere near lethal on the crackback. I mean, they're empty-handed, so I can just take this damage to have as many creatures on the crackback as possible. So let's see. Realistically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures left if I don't block at all. 5 creatures against 4 blockers, because if they kill one of our creatures, they have to tap the Fiend to do that. So 1 creature gets in for 3 damage, and I gain a chunk of life. Okay. One of our creatures dies, though. Yeah, I don't think I block because of the life gain from Rush of Battle. It's gonna be a better crackback. Or good enough crackback, I think, to not just die. So Rush of Battle, they have to kill the Leaping Master right now. Otherwise, they're taking 4 in the sky from one of these two. And I'm gaining 6 on this attack to be at 8. I guess we might just die on the crackback, but this is all we got. Let's see. Let's see what happens. They're not using the Necropolis Fiends. They're going to block Kieran. Block, 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 take 4 and go to 2. So they're going to go to 2. We're going to kill the Chief of the Scale and the Horde Chief and the 1/1, right? Because this is going to lose its extra toughness. Oh, no, they can block and give... God, this thing, instant speed is so insane. So they can block and -1/-1. Whatever would kill the Chief of the Scale, so that the Chief doesn't die, which means the Horde Chief doesn't die, which means we only kill the Warrior. I mean, if I don't attack, I just die. And if I do attack, I still lose. Alright. They got us. Necropolis Fiend was just too big. If I didn't chump the Horde Chief, we might have had a big enough board state to get there here. I guess not quite, right? Because they'd still block 4 of our creatures, and then they would -1/-1 whichever 3-power creature gets through. So I'd hit for 5 instead of 6 here. But it might have been enough life gain. And then also, like, actually force a chump that time around. Yeah, no, this is going to be completely disgusting. They Necropolis Fiend the 3-2 that's on Chief of the Scale. Then their Chief of the Scale doesn't die. Their Mardu Horde Chief doesn't die. Oh! Okay, if they don't do that, we're still in this game. Barely. Barely. We're still in. But I guess even if they don't do that, they just kill our other 2 creatures with Fiend, and we have to find a top deck. But things could have been significantly worse for us if they instant speed just -1/-1 the card that was going to kill Chief of the Scale, so that the Horde Chief would stay at 4 toughness and it wouldn't die. The Chief would survive against a 2/1. Yeah, I think this is definitely a better position than if they had used the Fiend as a combat trick. But it's still definitely not a winning position. I mean, if they attack both and we top deck Ankle Shanker, then if they missed a draw here, we're good. And maybe they will. If we draw the same number of lands as them, they'll miss a draw this turn. They did not miss. So now they can attack both pretty freely, and I don't think there's anything that lethals them. No, my active treason effect still lethals them. The Jeering Instigator would still win if they attack both. Leaping Master, you really don't do it. Like, I guess I'm not dead this turn. Okay, kill the Leaping Master. No attack with the Necropolis Fiend then. They top deck another removal spell though. I guess I am forced to jump either way. Yep. Ankle Shanker, Ankle Shanker. No! Stop hitting every turn! You're supposed to miss and then I top deck Ankle Shanker. Kieran does not do it. We're so dead on board. Okay. Really only one play of that game I think could have gone significantly differently, and that was just not blocking at all on that one attack. But if we didn't block, we're dead to Aerostorm. Not Aerostorm, just Crater's Claw specifically. Yeah, it's probably too narrow to play around that rare. Again, it doesn't, like, actually find lethal, because they could have Necropolis Fiended before combat damage. So I'd be getting in for 3 like I did here. But then my other creature that got in would have hit for 1 less damage. I'm pretty sure the math corresponds to putting them to 1, but then they still probably take things over like they did here. But that was definitely our best shot. Maybe it was actually winning. Maybe I did do the math wrong. Like, maybe we had enough mana to rush a battle plus buff the cavalry. Yeah, no, that would have got there if we had enough mana to do that. Well, I don't know if we had the 8th land at that time. If we did casting Rush a Battle plus trampling up the cavalry, would have been more damage than playing the Rush a Battle and flying up the Leaping Master, and it probably would have been lethal. So if we had the 8th land, I think definitely if we kept the cavalry around, we would have been good. All right. Yeah, that was a rough one. It was a hard decision there, and I think that's the only one that I'd really do differently. I think everything else played pretty solid. And we still had a chance here if we drew just a little more gas a little quicker in the end. But explosive stuff, really close game. And 1-2 it is. Here we are for game 4. We're doing really well mana-wise so far. At least there's that. But things just lining up rough in some real close games. I think that 1,000 wins is still going to be the biggest blowout we've seen in the format for a while. I think it's going to take a while before we get blown out that badly. Unless somebody just casts Dune Blast, but That's not as like narrow of a blowout, so it won't feel as bad, you know, as like return all tapped creatures specifically. But yeah, like if someone casts Dune Blast and they blow everything except for one of their creatures up, it's like, okay, well that's just what Dune Blast does, whatever. Game's over. It's those narrow blowouts that are gross. So opponent doesn't block and we morph, opponent does block and we make some 1/1s with Mardu Charm. Man, people are really just blocking prowess creatures out here like nobody's business. I would just never be blocking in these kind of positions. I'm genuinely surprised how much mileage we've gotten out of Seeker that we've been able to do that twice. I mean, it's also pretty lucky, right? Because we only have like the 1 3-mana spell in the deck that we would want to cast if somebody blocks like that. But like if I didn't have the good spell, I just wouldn't be attacking with the Seeker. Which is why if I were on the other side of the table, I would just never be blocking. I'd be like, if our opponent doesn't have the prowess trigger, that'd be a super mega bold attack. So, Honing back Brigade, I can flip it up next turn if I play it now. I think I just hold up the feet, and if they block, we use Feat of Resistance. If they don't block, then we use the Pony Back Brigade to flip it up next turn, so we can have a massive board state when we cast the Russia Battle, and just super win off that. Alright, well this is going to be nasty. I guess it's actually not insane, because this doesn't give protection from colorless. But it's still a trade, so I think it's worth it. We're trading a token into their card now. So what is this morph? Oh, it's their own Pony Back Brigade. Yeah, that played out fine. Bitter Revelation. Ooh, I'm happy to see my opponent shoot themselves in the face to draw some cards. This is a good spell, but I love seeing it in an aggro deck like this. I'd love to actually draw... Dang. I was going to say, I'd actually love to draw just some non-creature here, so I can just try to hard cast Pony Back Brigade when I have 6 mana. Not going to happen here. Just drop it face down for the turn. 5 mana up from our opponent. They are down to 11, though. There's a single morph. There's their own Seeker of the Way, which could help give them some breathing room. Ooh. Wow. All right. Huh. So we attack with just Seeker, and if they don't double block, if they single block, then we cast Take Up Arms. Okay. If they don't block or if they double block, then I think we flip the Pony Back Brigade there instead. This is a matchup where there actually is an argument for holding lands, because there is a 2-mana 2/1 that makes us discard a card in black. They'd have to attack to use it, though. Alright. Lethal question mark? Let's see. Let's rush right on in. It's certainly the play for the turn. Well, there you go. I mean, they have to basically chump block everything. So we're still definitely in the lead. They do clear out a 3/2. There's that. But yeah, our life total here is going to be egregious. 46? Lord have mercy. There's a debilitating injury on the Seeker of the Way, but now they only have 4 mana left. There's a Skull Hunter with no attacks. That is the exact 2/1 I was talking about that would make us discard a card. But they have to attack to use it. So tapped creature, that's just 5 on board. They're already dead. If they drew a tap land, that would have been really nice for them. Not any tap land. The 3-color one doesn't gain them life, but one of the 2 colors that gains life, then they wouldn't be dead on board, but we had the Ankle Shanker, so we still would have found lethal. It just would have been a little comforting for our opponent. So, alright. Trying to turn things around, get at least a reasonable record here. We've had a couple pretty nasty losses, but we're at 2-2 now for a 50-50 run so far. Hopefully we can win at least one more game before we're out of it, because that next game is worth a lot of gems at 250 for 2 wins and 1,000 for 3. So here we are heading into game 5, hoping for the best. Here we are for game 5. I don't think this hand is keepable. We can't cast the black spells, obviously. But the castable spells in the hand don't do anything without a creature on our board. And we just don't know that we're going to draw into a creature. We don't know that we're going to draw into a black source. And our opponent's on the play too, so it's super, super risky. Let's take the mole here. This is better. We can ditch the black spell and go 2-drop into a 2-mana 3/2 the next turn, have a great combat trick and a solid 5-drop to top things off. Yeah, it's a good hand. Perfectly reasonable hand here. Ooh. Firehoof Cavalry to play a 2-mana 3/2 on turn 2. That's pretty juicy in this set. I mean, a 3/2 still just trades into a morph, just like a 2/1 would, but still feels good. I guess with Feat of Resistance, actually the +1/+1 counter to make it a 4/3 when their morph blocks means it'll win, even though I can't actually give it protection from a morph. No. Don't do it. Don't look at my aspirant. Don't throw fire in its face or something. Okay. Embodiment of Spring, that's fine. That can't even block the aspirant. It's too small. Little baby elemental. No blocks, alright. 1 extra point of damage for free. Was really just a bluff attack with the cavalry, because it's like there's no reason not to. They just bounce off each other. But yeah. Sometimes your opponent just won't block because they don't want to get their mana ramp blown out by a combat trick or something. So that played pretty well for us, getting 1 extra point in. There is a morph. So that's pretty good against the Leaping Master. But if they try to kill the aspirant, I can Feat of Resistance. Although if I do any of that, I'm not casting the Kieran, so I might just let it trade and cast the Kieran here. I think that's probably fine. And then I get to save Feat of Resistance to save the Kieran if they don't go for removal next turn. Buff up a juicier threat. Ooh, 4/2, Hexproof and Prowess. So big threat I can't really do anything about. I can still attack into it with 2/1s right now, which is nice. Plus I've got the mana for that cavalry. Yeah, I'm going to just send the whole board in. I just buff the cavalry if anything blocks it. Got a 2-drop in hand. It might be reasonable to kill this embodiment and just play another 2-drop to keep the board state wide. Might play poorly, but I'm just going to choose black because it's funny. It's funny to just choose a color that doesn't matter at all because we don't need protection from the 0/3. Yeah, this might play poorly, that we don't have the Feat of Resistance anymore, but this gets the board state even farther in our favor, clearing out one of the blockers so that they're only blocking like 1 or 2 creatures here, and we're really jamming in for damage. Plus, we've buffed up a potential flyer. If we just dump mana into that, we're getting even more damage in past their ground blockers. So I think that's a perfectly fine use of the feat. And it's just another hexproof blocker on the ground? Sure. Ooh. I think that's just going to be my 5 mana play when I hit my 5th land to just like kill my opponent. Just do this. I'll trade a 2/1 into a 4/2 if they don't have a 1 mana instant, and I don't remember the set massively well, and I haven't, this is my 4th draft this time around. I have not seen a 1 mana instant. I think in any color, really. I guess there's the Delve instance that can end up being 1 mana, but that would only be Become Immense out of green, a green and 6. They didn't have 6 permanents in grave, so yeah, I don't think they're prowessing on that block. If they had all of their mana untapped, I don't think I would have attacked with the 2/1 on the ground, because they play any spell and they just eat the master. Probably don't block at 20. I would love to see what blows me out here. if they do blow me out. So these all have hexproof, so I can't instigator one of these. Since they didn't play another creature, I don't even think I play it then. I just hold up take-up arms and threaten lethal on board already. Winter Flame, that's a very nice one here. Stop the damage from Kieran and just kill the Leaping Master. Poke them down to 2, or poke them to 4 so I can also cast take-up arms. I think I'd rather poke them to 4 and hold up the take-up arms. Get that wide board state that they can't block the whole way around. Wow, they just have every Whirlwind Adept in the draft pod. What is it, like the 4th one? 3rd? Close enough. That's a lot. Either way. Kind of a fun build around. That low toughness is a really hard selling point, though. As you can see by like our 2-mana 2/1 ending up trading up into them. The hexproof has been big for our opponent, though. Made it so we didn't get to just like instigate or lethal them, at least, but still are going to get there in the end. Those 5-mana 4/2s really just lining up poorly against flyers and 2-mana 2/1s and stuff like that without the instance in their hand to support the prowess. So rough draw for our opponents. Lined up pretty poorly against our little aggro dorks, and that's going to be a victory for us. Now 3-2, guaranteed some decent value out of the draft no matter what, but we'll see how far we can keep it up as we head into round 6. Here we are for game number 6. Desperate for a black source. Sketchy Keep, it's basically a multi-5 that's just a 2-mana 2/1, a 3-mana 2/2. Russia battle here. On the draw, I think I'd be pretty happy with this, knowing that I'm drawing towards that black source immediately. This is sketchy on the play, but it curves out from 2 onward. A lot of our hands will do that, though. I'm greeding it up. I'm just going to pretend I mulliganed to 6 and it was bad, and then I mulled to 5 and we put these 2 cards on bottom. That is the world that I live in, even if it's not reality. And then if we hit the black source, it's like, oh, look, I didn't mulligan at all. Woo! We're actually great. Okay, not a black source, but just a land's good here. Get our morph down. Keep curving out in the aggressive seat here. We're in the seat that just beats you up when you sit down. Black, green, and white Abzan, which is really good at recovering late game. They've got some, like, beefy lifelinkers and annoying stuff like that. Feed Resistance is not going to save Leaping Master from the Morph, but maybe they'll try to trade Morphs here, and then Feed of Resistance plays well, and that lets us use all 3 of our mana. If they go Morph for Leaping Master, it's like, alright, that's a trade. It happens. And we just get to hold up the Feat of Resistance in case they have removal during their turn or something. Alright, so no blocks. We take it, no blocks. Here's Firehoof Cavalry, and we're holding up the Resistance. Land is nasty here. Obviously, I would love for it to be a swamp, but any land to just rush a battle next turn is not bad. And they are a 4 or 5 color deck here. Ooh, that Mardu Horde Chief is such a great card. I have 2 of that in this deck, and I don't think I've even cast one yet. I'm playing against more Horde Chiefs than casting the Horde Chiefs, which is gross. Why? Why is it the way that it is? I'm a Horde Chief deck. Why can't I play mine? Okay, Horde Chief makes our rush of battle significantly weaker here. Now if we rush of battle, our Leaping Master trades into their Horde Chief, and we deal 4, 5, 6, 7, or they just chump block 4 damage and we deal 3. God. That's so depressing. Horde Chief was so good for our opponent. Out of the 4-color deck, too. This Ghost Fireblade, speaking of cards that are really good, it only costs 1 mana to put on a Morph, so this Morph's going to be a 4/4, and we're not getting through that. I'm just holding up Resistance at this point, then? Rush of Battle isn't even that insane here. No, we probably just rush in still. Just a little disappointed with it. Unless I'm really holding out for a black source to get a couple warriors with first strike, which could be a thing. Or a black source for the pony back brigade. You know what? That is true. I have both the pony back brigade and the Mardu charm for making a really wide board state if we find a black source. So let's just hold up a feat of resistance here. Or just kick them in the sky for 2. But if I draw any land, I can start kicking them in the sky while holding up the resistance, even if it is another red or white source. Blossoming Sands, some life gain for our opponent. At a very stable 15 life over there. I just slam a Ghost Fireblade on the Morph and just keep getting in. The super gross combo with Morphs is that it equips for only 1 on a colorless creature, right? So it goes on the Morph, but then when they flip the Morph, it's still going to be on there. So once it turns into like a big colored creature, it still gets the buff. Valley Dasher, you are not good here, my friend. Not at all. I guess with the feat of resistance this turn into the rush of battle next turn, we still drop it. Having to attack into this board state is rough, but then it's like it attacks in and I put a feat of resistance on that. I guess in for a penny, in for a pound, right? If we have to attack with that, we send in all the creatures that would be fine with feat of resistance to kill the Horde Chief. And then it's like 2 of them get in and one of them gets the counter here. But our opponent probably has an instant or they're flipping the Morph with all that mana up. Bring low? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's not horrible. I mean, we get 2 for 1, but not like a massive change to the way this game's going right now. Yo, are you about to like lifelink me to death? Yep, there's that Abzan guide. That's just gonna be like unbeatable for us. So much life gain. Now they're just gonna go back to 8. Yeah, this card is so nasty against the aggro. The chunky lifelinker there. Oh my god. And the Russia battle, so even if they didn't have lethal this turn, they're all the way up to 17. Woo. Well, if we hit perfect mana there and found our black source, we could probably win that game. I don't hate my keep there, but obviously it wasn't advantageous. Probably our average 6-card hand does slightly better. Don't know that that one was going to be a winning game, though they had a lot of lifelink set up with the guide into the Russia battle. So that was going to be a hard-fought battle no matter what. And I did say when we built this deck without any fixing in our mana base, no duels and no triomes, and this is definitely not the kind of deck that wants to play a banner, that we were probably going to lose a game to mana issues, and this was that one. Moderately self-imposed in the way that we built the deck, and moderately self-imposed by not taking the mulligan here. It is what it is. 3-3 is going to be the final record. Still, not a terrible one. Still haven't had a bad draft per se in this format, but 3-3 is the bummer end of the average draft. 4-3 is like, all right, solid average draft, and 3-3 is like, mediocre average draft. Is what it is. I think those first 2 losses, there wasn't a ton we could do. Obviously, the +2/+1 to the board into the smite was disgusting, but I don't know. That's like the one thing we could have done in that game. We never ended up seeing another removal spell in their hand, so we have no idea what the other instant they were holding for was, unless they were just holding full control mode the whole time. So I don't know. That was the one that could have gone differently if we didn't go for the Russia battle there. But that 1,000 wins, I am 100% confident we made the right play just attacking all. They just had the perfect rare there to flip the whole board, and That was really what super crushed us there. The Smite the Monstrous at the perfect time was just the icing on the cake to really solidify that that game was not working out for us. And I think the second loss, I don't even remember at this point, but I know we could have played it out at least a little better. It's pretty much always a possibility. So might have to look back on that one, but I think 3-3 still respectable for the deck that had some issues. One final look at the deck. I think overall this deck is pretty fantastic. This is basically exactly what you want out of a Mardu deck. This is what this color trio is great at. The one thing that it's really missing on that could vastly improve this deck is that mana base. Having a few dual lands or a triome or something could make it so we get to cut a mountain for a red-black duel, plains for a white-red duel, a swamp for a black-red duel. All of a sudden then we have like 5 black sources, 9 red sources, and 8 white sources in this deck, and our mana base gets so much more consistent from that while still running the exact same number of lands so that we don't flood out all the time by running like 9 plains, 9 mountains, 4 swamps or something. So that is the one thing that definitely could be improved about this deck. But as far as the non-land cards are concerned, I think this deck is really, really high quality. Just a little rough plays that didn't pan out well for us, and some really high quality decks from our opponent for the most part, and of course the one self-imposed mana issues loss there in the final round certainly happens. 3-3 is the final record, still doing perfectly reasonable in the Khans of Tarkir drafts. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and you're interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.